Hi, and welcome to Salesforce's Release Readiness Live for Winter 16. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Torres, and it's a pleasure to be back again as we take today to dive into conversations with some of our product management team looking at the latest and greatest that our App Cloud has to offer. It's hard to believe that Winter 16 is already upon us, but this is one of our favorite times of the year here at Salesforce. It means that we just wrapped on another successful Dreamforce, which means that we have an entire year's worth of features and news to share with you, the audience, today. Now, if you've never joined us for Release Readiness Live before, thanks for joining. The purpose of today's session is to take the release notes that you've already read and bring them to life with deeper dives and live discussions. And speaking of being live, we are live here in Salesforce Studios today, which means that I am being joined by 3 members of our product management team. Now, we'll get to meet those experts in just a minute, but before we meet the people who you'll be asking questions of, let's find out how you're going to be asking questions of them. And to handle that and more, we have the Salesforce Success Community's own, Elna Miller. Hey, Elna.
Hi, Mike. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the second session of the day. I am Elna Miller, one of your community managers. Now, please ask your questions in Twitter or in the Success Community in the Release Readiness group. And you can use the hashtag Salesforce Live, or you can use the social stream, which is right on the page in front of you. We do have a no question left behind policy, so please post those questions and shout outs, add that hashtag, and we will answer as many questions as we can live or within the next few days. Mike, back to you.
All right, thanks, Elna. Now, before we get into the main event, there are a few final points of logistics that we do need to cover. As we've mentioned, in this particular session, we're going to be covering everything related to the Salesforce App Cloud. Earlier today, we covered the Sales Cloud, and tomorrow we're going to be covering the Community Cloud and Service Clouds. Now, if you can't join us live for any of this, you can find recordings in both long and short form at www.salesforce.com/release-readiness. Okay, great. So one last item before we get started. We are going to be covering a lot of very new features that we have to offer, but we're also going to be taking a look at our product roadmap. So to make sure that we're approaching that with the right expectations, we need to review Salesforce's Safe Harbor slide. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the Safe Harbor slide, what it asks of us is that since we're going to be discussing our product roadmap today, that we base any purchasing decisions around Salesforce based only on current functionality, which makes sense. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to hand things over to our very own Eric Jacobson.
Great, thanks, Mike. And it's great to be back here at Release Readiness Live. I joined you guys last release as we introduced the App Builder. It became generally available in our summer release, and we've been really excited and really thrilled with everything you guys have been doing with the App Builder. So today we're going to talk even a little bit more about App Builder and talk about how you can use the App Builder to customize the new Lightning experience. And before we get started with that, let me introduce my my co-presenters today. From elsewhere in the App Cloud, we've also brought a couple of other guests with us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather Conklin and I'm a Director of Product Management here at Salesforce. I run the App Exchange, the Success Community, so hello to everyone joining from the Success Community. Also our partner community and our ISV partner tools. So these are the tools that our partners use in order to build and manage their apps for the App Exchange.
Hi, I'm Skip Sauls. I'm a Director of Product Management for Lightning Components. And I'm going to talk to you today about how you can build components for putting on the App Exchange, for selling them there, and also for use inside of App Builder for customizing Lightning experience, as well as showing you how you can use these in an exciting way in Salesforce Classic.
Great, thanks, Skip. So let's dig in. Let's talk about how we can customize the new Lightning experience. Certainly by now, if you joined us earlier this morning, you saw the Sales Cloud introduce the new Lightning experience. Well, I want to take a step back in time, and actually let's rewind all the way back to 2013, if you will, for a moment here. I know that's a challenge for a second here, but the idea is that to think about it, in 2013, we really revolutionized and reimagined the mobile experience. We introduced Salesforce One, and that was the power of your Salesforce right in your pocket, running on your iPhone, your Android phone, then subsequently on your tablets. And we took that, and what you didn't realize at the time is that we had built an incredible platform behind the scenes. So last year at Dreamforce 2014, we reimagined the platform, we gave it a name, we called it Lightning, and we said, here's this incredible new developer framework with Lightning components, and it's a great new way to build your applications for mobile. But it's not just about mobile. So now we've been able to reimagine CRM for the desktop, leveraging Lightning. So that brand new Lightning experience that you saw this morning, or if you've had an opportunity to see us at Dreamforce or any of the other events around Lightning experience, is all being powered by that same Lightning component framework and Lightning architecture here. And it's not just about that application, but the underlying platform. So what makes this really exciting for us here in the App Cloud is to talk about that at the heart of every page of this new experience is Lightning. And what I mean by that is that it gives us new degrees of customization than we've ever had before. So now, using tools like the Lightning App Builder or using programmatic tools, you are able to go in and customize virtually any page of the new Lightning experience. And you can do it without even needing to write code. It's as simple as drag and drop to accomplish things that in the past would have required writing lines upon lines upon lines of code. So we think this is going to make it much easier for our customers to not only customize, but to maintain their experiences. So let's talk a little bit more depth about that. But before we do that, I think it's better to show a demo. Rather than just talk about it, let's actually go in and take a look at it. So here we are in the new Lightning experience. And you certainly saw this. You saw this demo this morning. You would have seen, we're looking here at our home screen. And I'm going to drill into a particular opportunity record, because that's where we're going to talk about a lot of our customization. So here now, we're looking at a particular opportunity in the new Lightning experience. And you can see at the top, we have a region of the screen that we call our highlights panel that shows a couple of key fields as well as some actions. And then we have our related lists on the side. In the center then we have our activities, our collaborate, which would be our chatter feed, and then our details, which would give us all of our fields as well as field related information there. Now this whole page is customizable. And to begin with, we actually have already carried forward a lot of the customizations you may have already made. So for example, if you've customized the fields or the actions, all of that metadata is 100% preserved and carried forward into the new Lightning experience here. Now, to show you some of what we can do to really customize this, I'm going to show you a brand new tool, the capability of using the Lightning App Builder to customize Lightning experience. Now, this is a special treat for you guys. Normally, we don't talk about pilots in Release Readiness Live, but we think this is so important that we wanted to make it available to all of our viewers. So we have a brand new public access pilot here that is available to all users with a developer edition org. Everyone can get a copy. We'll talk about the details of that after the demo here. So I'm going to jump over to Setup inside of Lightning Experience here. And if I go to the Lightning App Builder node in my Setup here, you'll see a brand new section here that says the App Builder for Lightning Experience Pilot. And it gives us a little bit of a warning, because once again, it is a pilot, which means that any of the changes you make will revert after the Winter 16 release. But the idea here is that we want you to get in, get comfortable, learn about what the capabilities for customization will be on the platform here, so that you can be ready to fully take advantage of these when they become generally available, planned for the Spring 16 release. Obviously, there's a safe harbor clause around that one, but we are working hard at being able to make that available here. So we'll go ahead and enable our App Builder for Lightning Experience. We'll click Save, and now we're ready to go. I jump back over here to my view of my opportunity, and from the very top, you'll see there's a gear menu here that when I drill down on that, gives me an option to edit the page. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit Page, and that's going to automatically load up the Lightning App Builder for Lightning Experience. And what you'll instantly notice here is that it looks the same as the page you were just looking at. We can see the same record. We see all of the components there. However, now they are components that we can interact with and customize. So to start with here, let's look at this particular highlights panel component here. And you'll see that it actually lets me know where the metadata comes from. So if I want to understand how I can go in and configure this, it gives me a little bit of a tutorial here, and it shows me that the fields come from compact layout. Now you may be thinking to yourself, wait a second, wasn't compact layout just for mobile? And it's true, we introduced the idea of compact layout for customizing Salesforce 1, but that metadata now carries forward and is the metadata that you use to customize the highlights panel in the new Lightning experience. Same idea that you want to have a couple of fields, or in this case up to 5 fields that you can use to quickly give you those details you want right at your fingertips about a particular record, applies here. Similarly, the actions actually come from your page layouts. And this means that it will fully respect all of your page layout assignment. If you have separate pages by record type and profile, all of that metadata carries through and lives on here inside of the Lightning experience. We just now give you a nice convenient way of being able to view it here inside the App Builder. And then if you wanted to go in and customize it, you would actually be able to launch into the appropriate tool within Setup to be able to go in and customize, say, one of those compact layouts there. So coming back, We can look at that particular component. We can see other components. Now, in the past, you might have been thinking to yourself, hey, what if I want to just make a simple change to the way the content on the page is organized? Well, it was simple enough to drag and drop a field. You could move a field between sections, and that was pretty easy. But if you wanted to change where the chatter feed was on the page, that was incredibly hard. It required you to actually go in and completely replace the page with custom Visualforce. We don't think that should be hard. We want to make that easy. So now it's as simple as being able to go over to the Collaborate tab. I can pick up the chatter feed, and I can just drag and drop it, and I can move it where I want it to be. So just like that, in a matter of just point and click, drag and drop, I can rearrange the order and organization of my page to meet my needs. If I don't like it, I can just click on the undo button. It'll go back to where it was originally. Now, what makes this even more capable, even more powerful is the ability that you can now enhance these pages with additional custom components. So we've got our built-in components here that show up in our standard section at the top of the component palette here on the app builder. But then I've also got additional custom components. And these may be custom components that were built by somebody in my organization. Perhaps somebody did write a component for me. Or even better is that you didn't need to create the component. And Heather's going to talk to us quite a bit more in just a couple minutes about the App Exchange. But the idea here is that you could actually go and get some great components from our partners and be able to drag and drop them in to enhance the capability of our default experience here. So for example, the Taz group has built some incredible capabilities here. So for example, I want to get a sense of how my opportunity is doing. I have a health check component. And I can just drag and drop and add that right onto my page there. And automatically, it is contextual. It understands what record I'm looking at and is showing me the correct information there. So I can add that to my page. I can hit save. Now, there's let me add one more thing to it real quickly here. Let me add in the ability, just a little bit of a reminder to all my salespeople. So I'm going to add a rich text component here. That's just a reminder that tells them, reminder, please close all deals before the end of the month. There we go. So we can make that nice and big, just to give a reminder to all our salespeople that we want them to get their deals closed so that they get their opportunities, they get their commissions. We get that in, we save that. Now the only last thing that we need to do is we need to activate our page. So we'll go ahead and we'll click the checkbox here. It says to replace the default page with our customized page. Now the great thing is that at any time you can just go back in and you can revert it back. So if you want to get back to the default page there, you haven't lost it, it's a checkbox away. So we'll go ahead and we'll save that. And we've now completely customized our opportunity record homepage. If I jump back over here now, we'll see it reload here. And you can see there we've got it. We've got our reminder showing up right beneath the sales path. And then our opportunity health check here is giving us contextual information about that particular deal. So we've got all of that information right at our fingertips. OK, so let's jump back over to slides, talk a little bit about how we can get access to this, because I think everyone's going to want to try it out. And the great thing, as I mentioned, this is a pilot, but it's available in all Developer Edition orgs. So everybody can get a Developer Edition org. They're free. Go to developer.salesforce.com and you can sign up. Obviously, this will not take effect until Winter 16 is fully out and installed in all of those orgs. But you'll have the ability to go in there. Once you enable Lightning Experience, you can go use that same checkbox that I showed you there to turn on the Lightning App Builder, and you can start customizing your pages. But with that, let's also talk a little bit about where we're going beyond that, a little bit from a roadmap perspective. Certainly, as I mentioned, obviously, this is really exciting. We're going to want this feature to be generally available. So that's one of the things that we are most immediately working on, is making that feature available to everyone so they can use it in their production orgs. Beyond that, being able to do some things like customizing the tabs on the page. For example, you saw Collaborate and Details and Related, and perhaps you want to go in there and you want to add your own custom tabs so you can position additional components. All of that capability will be possible. Similarly, having different pages per profile and record type is something that we're working on, so that you'll be able to, say, have a different set of Lightning components appear for your managers than appear for your salespeople, so that they can have just the information they need on an appropriate page. And then lastly, the ability to configure properties on some of those standard components, provide additional customization and greater depth to that customizability. Those are all things that we're working on within the roadmap for the Lightning App Builder. And with that, let me hand it over to Heather here, who's going to talk to us about how we can get some additional components.
Well, before we do that, I just want to make sure that we're checking in with Elna because
you're right.
Based on some of the huge gains that you just showed us for the ease with which the experience can be customized, I mean, there has to be a lot coming from the social sphere in terms of how that's going to happen. Elna, what are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. There are some questions. And before I get into the questions, I just want to mention that we've had a couple of reports of the screen being a little bit unclear, not coming through on the demo. So just want to let you know that if we do discover some technical problems with that in the broadcast, we will re-record that demo and post the recording for you. So don't worry, you'll be able to see it crystal clear at least within a day or two once we get that reproduced. So Eric, can you talk a little bit more about the availability of App Builder and all the various things you've been talking about? Emily's just wanted to clarify if it's in pilot and how do you get into the pilot?
Sure. Well, let's actually take a step backwards first to just confirm for everyone that using the Lightning App Builder to build apps for mobile, for Salesforce 1, is generally available. That became generally available with the Summer 15 release. So if you're trying to build apps that you would add and access from the navigation menu inside of Salesforce 1, you can do that today. It is generally available and available in all orgs and all editions from Group Edition and up. In terms of the availability of Lightning App Builder for Lightning Experience, that is a pilot. And the way we're handling this pilot is we've made it available as a self-service enable pilot for all Developer Edition orgs. So anyone can go and sign up for that Developer Edition org. You can try it out, and then once it becomes generally available, we'll enable that functionality in all of your production organizations.
All right, and we have one question from Marina about finding Lightning components in the App Exchange, but I believe we might be covering that in the next segment.
Yes,
so hang tight for that one. And I just have I'm going to refresh the feed and go to a couple of questions while I'm doing that. Can you just go into a little bit more detail about what pages are editable in the pilot itself?
Sure. So in the pilot, you can edit record home. And so what I mean by record home is that this is the place where you would look at the details of a particular record for virtually any standard object. So things like opportunities, accounts, contacts, people, cases, all of the standard objects that show up down the left-hand side in the navigation menu there are all going to be editable. Additionally, custom object record home is also available. All of those pages are editable. In the future, we will support editing of other types of pages, like that first home screen, for example, is something that is on our roadmap to make that editable as well.
And speaking of other types of things, what about custom objects?
So custom objects, absolutely. Yes, custom objects are first-class citizens in the Lightning experience, and you can open them up and edit them directly today.
All right. Do we have time for one more question?
We have time for one last question.
A shout out to Chris, can't wait for the customizable homepage. So sitting with bated breath there. And I think that's about all the questions we have for now. Although if I missed one, we will get to it within the next day or two. So Chris, I think we should move on to the next section on components.
Great. Thank you, Elna. And thank you, Eric, for explaining to our users just how much easily we have made the process of customizing and adding new functionality to the Lightning experience. Now, there's going to be a place for going even further, but sometimes we run up against our own limitations in capacity and resources. But to speak towards what we have as a solution for that scenario, we have Heather Conklin.
Thanks so much. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the new Lightning Exchange. So if you were at Dreamforce, you probably heard Mark and Parker talking about this, but this is a new place where you can go on the App Exchange to get Lightning components. So let's dive in and talk first a little bit about components in general. And Eric hit on this a bit in his demo, but just to kind of break it down clearly on this slide for everybody, there's a few different types of components that you can actually get and use to customize pages or build apps with the Lightning App Builder. And so first are standard components. And these are components that Salesforce has actually built and is now making available to you. And this is a list right now that is going to continue to grow in the future, and I think Skip's going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Next is custom components. So you can also build your own custom components with Lightning and use those in the Lightning App Builder. And again, Eric showed you where that showed up in the left, and I'll show you in a demo here shortly as well. And finally, you have App Exchange components. And so these are components that are coming from our partners and independent developers, and they're being put out on the App Exchange, just like the apps that you know and love today. And so that is what the new Lightning Exchange is. So the Lightning Exchange is a store on the App Exchange where you can go and install components very easily and quickly, just like you get apps today. So it's a library of components, and they're all trusted, they're all security reviewed, just like the apps. And you can get them and reuse them to build your own apps or customize your Lightning pages like Eric showed. And the components on the App Exchange, like I said, they're just like the apps that you know and love today. So I just want to make sure that we hit all these different points about what these components, what you can come to expect of these components. So first is they're trusted and secure. As I mentioned, they're all security reviewed just like our apps. So you don't have to worry that they're going to introduce some sort of vulnerability into your org. They've all got our stamp of approval in that area. They're also reviewed by customers. So our customers are out on the App Exchange reviewing things and telling you what works and what doesn't. And so you can always go and find more information about each of those components from customers just like yourself. They're also easy to install. So just like you get an app today by clicking that Get It Now button, you can do that for components and install them right there into your org. They're all built by partners or Salesforce Labs. So Salesforce Labs, if you're unfamiliar, it's a program that we have here at Salesforce where we get our employees to actually build apps and components now for your use. So you know that they're coming straight from a Salesforce employee as well. And they're all on the platform. So Lightning is our new UI platform, and you can use that to build all of these components, and they're all, the ones that are available are all from that as well. All right. So now let's cut over to a demo because it's much better to show you the components on the App Exchange than just talking about it. So if I cut over here to my demo, you can see that I'm here on the App Exchange. If you haven't been to the App Exchange lately, we gave it a little bit of a facelift this summer and created this new header here where you can see our different stores that are available in the App Exchange. So you have apps, you have components, which is the new store, the Lightning Exchange, and you have consultants. So here on components, if I scroll down, you can see that I have all kinds of components available. Again, they're from our partners, and they're also from Salesforce Labs. And so you can use this just like you use apps. You can hover over the different tiles and get a little more information about them, and you can even dive in on a particular component. So this is the TAS Opportunity Health Check that Eric was just showing a minute ago. And you can see here, when I go into this component on the App Exchange, I can see a lot more information about it. So I have this gray bar at the top, which shows me what device support this component has. I can also see that it works in the Lightning App Builder, so you know it'll work there, and that it's upgradable. So the partner can actually send me upgrades to this component and make sure that I get all the latest and greatest functionality.
I love that badging. Makes it so easy to find just what you're looking for.
It does. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback from customers on that, actually. So hopefully that's helping everyone else out. And that bar is available for apps as well. So if I scroll a little further down, I have all the details about this component. So I get the overview. I can see the screenshots. If there was a video of that component, I would see it here as well. I can get more details. And of course, I can always go into the reviews here and see what other people are saying. And this one's getting 5-star reviews, so that's great. You can see a little bit more about that here. All right, let's go back out to the main store. And I just want to show you a couple of quick ways that you can browse the store as well. So of course, you have categories. So down on the left here, just like you have for apps, you have categories that you can go into and see all the different types of components under a particular category. We also have filters. So right below the banner on the store, you can see the filters. So here, I can go and say, I only want to see components that work in the app builder. And I can say, I want all of those to be free. And so I can enter in whatever filters I want here and apply that, and then I'll see only the components that I'm looking for based on the filters. And of course, you always have search. It's probably the #1 way that people find things on the App Exchange, so you have your search box right up here as well. All right. Now I want to show you a quick demo. Eric showed you what you can do with components in the new Lightning experience. And as he said, you may be wondering, what can you do with the Lightning App Builder that's GA right now? How can I take advantage of all these great components that I have now on the App Exchange? And so that's what I want to show you. So I'm going to hop over here, back in my demo, to the Lightning App Builder and show you how I would use the components that I just showed you on the App Exchange to build an app. And so this could be an app for Salesforce 1, for example. So if I go in here and create a new app, I'm going to go ahead and click a 3-column layout because I want to give myself as much real estate as possible. And here, I'm going to create an event planning app. So I'm fresh off of Dreamforce and still thinking a lot about events, and I'm going to use that to create an app for people to plan events in the future. So here, if I go, I'm going to start with a tablet view, and I'm going to bring over a filtered list. So this one you can see I grabbed from that standard section up here at the top. And so that means it's a component that came from Salesforce. And so it's just a standard filtered list that you would know and love today. And I'm going to make it be about events because, again, I'm building this event planning app. So now I can see all the upcoming events that we have at our company. To help people plan events, we also created, in the custom world, we created this approved vendors component. And so this one is going to show people what vendors are approved to use for events. And so I have that here, and it'll be a carousel that'll rotate through in pictures. And then I really want to get into my custom components that I got from the App Exchange. And so here you can see I have a long list of things here. And because it's an event planning app, what would it be without a calendar? So I'm going to go ahead and put a calendar in here so that I can use that. And you can see on the right here, I can actually customize what that component does. So I can give it a title, my calendar. I could actually update the font size if I wanted to, the font colors even, or the background color of that component. So this right pane here really gives you a lot of ability to modify what you get from the components that you get on the App Exchange. I'm also going to add a speed dial component because I'm going to be making a lot of reservations, and so I want the reservation hotline here. And so here, because this is a Salesforce 1 mobile app, when I'm in Salesforce 1 and I click on this, it'll actually just communicate with my phone and dial that number right away. So it gives me a quick one-click access. And so I think that's about good for my components here. Maybe one last thing, let's add a meetup list. So when I'm planning these, I want to know what other events are happening maybe in the area. And so here I can see upcoming meetups that are in the area. And now I can also just quickly change the form factor. So if I want to see what that would look like on a phone, I can do that, and everything just resizes right there into the phone view. And now I can see what that would look like for my users. All right, and so that's all I wanted to show you on the demo side today. Let's switch back over to the slides, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what we have coming up in the future. So on our roadmap for the App Exchange, it's actually something pretty big for us. It's something that we've never done before, and that is that we are planning to expose the App Exchange in your Salesforce org. So when you're here in the Lightning App Builder and you're building apps like I just showed you today, you can actually click a button at the bottom of the App Builder that says Get More from the App Exchange. And you can all do this today. It'll take you right out to the component store that I showed you. But in our future roadmap here, we're actually going to make it so that when you click that button, it will open up the App Exchange right there in the Lightning App Builder as an overlay. You'll be able to browse all of the apps and components, and obviously you'll be able to install components really quickly there with just one click, and it'll appear immediately in your Lightning App Builder so that you can build right away. So obviously here you can be building an app, realize you don't have a specific component that you need in order to complete what you're doing, and you can just open up the App Exchange right there, install, and be on your way. So we're really excited about that, and we think it'll be really, really important for all of you who are out there building apps and customizing pages like Eric showed.
Wow. Well, I think what you've just showed us, is going to be a huge gain in terms of the access our customers will have to the kinds of components that are really going to transform their Salesforce usage.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is generating a lot of excitement. So, Elna, what are we seeing out there on the interwebs?
Well, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Cheryl because she's all over the Lightning Exchange. And thank you, Cheryl, for posting the links. If you're following the Twitter feed, look for Cheryl's posts on some of the areas that you can go to, including where you can get free components. If you want to go directly to the components area, you can just go to appexchange.salesforce.com/components. And if you add another /free, you'll get to the free components there. And again, you'll see that in the Twitter feed if you're following. So we do have one question from Cody about something you can do in the classic UI. He's wondering if you can also do that in the Lightning UI. You can see what org you're in. For example, are you in production? Are you in sandbox or dev org? Can you have that same experience in Lightning UI?
Yes. If you're just talking generally about the new Lightning experience, then yes. If you are in the Lightning experience, you can go up into the top and see what username you're logged in as. You can go to your profile and your settings and understand which org you're logged in from, for sure.
And is there any limit to the number of components? Let's say you just found just a whole ton of them that you want to use. Is there a limit to how many you can have in your org?
Not that I know of, unless these guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but not that I know of. So go install away.
All right. And how many components would you say are available right now today?
So there's about 50 components that are available on the App Exchange today, and we have a lot in the pipeline. So we have a lot that are coming to the AppExchange very soon. What Eric has shown with the Lightning experience and how you can customize the pages is really generating a ton of excitement, as you can probably imagine. And partners are looking at that as a great new opportunity. And so I think you'll just see tons and tons more components flood to the AppExchange this year.
Great. Now we know some are free, some are paid. Can you give an idea of kind of what the price range would be for some of these?
Sure. So components we're noticing are being priced a little differently than apps. So apps are typically done as a per user basis, but components we're seeing a lot more per company. With components, because they're small and they're little bite-sized things, we're also seeing a lot of one-time fees. So you're just seeing kind of a slightly different price point and price model than we see on apps today.
Interesting, thanks.
Yeah.
Interesting question from Kirill. Can components talk to each other or pass information on App Builder?
That is an awesome segue, actually, into Skip's presentation. So I will hand that over, and he is going to talk all about that.
All right, thank you, Heather.
No problem.
So I'm going to talk to you today about Lightning components and show you a few of the key new features we have. We're very excited about these. We've been in GA for a while now with Lightning components, and as Eric mentioned, we've had certain features that are in GA, general availability, others that are actually in a developer preview. I'll make that distinction today, but they're important enough that we think you'll find them very interesting as part of this release review. So first up, let me show you a chart that shows you all the places you can use Lightning components. And a key takeaway from this is that Salesforce uses Lightning components everywhere. We're building all of our new UIs with it. We use it internally as our technology. And a big difference between this and Salesforce Classic is that we build on the same technology stack that you're going to be building on, the same one that our partners build on. And that's very interesting for us because it means that our customization strategy is the same across the entire set of products. So things that we build today for part of our Lightning experience can be customized with App Builder, can be enhanced with components from AppExchange, and can be enhanced by your own custom components. You don't have to worry about building something separate. And as Eric mentioned, we had sort of a distinction in the past where you had to stop and then go rebuild things in Visualforce. And that's not to say Visualforce is bad. In fact, I've got a great new feature to show you around that. But there was a very distinct way we did things inside of our own product versus the way you did things inside of Visualforce. So you had kind of a cliff, we like to call it there, that you had to fall off of. So we're trying to minimize that and make it so that you can build the same components and use them across all of the UIs, whether it's mobile, desktop, whether it's custom or standard. So let me talk about Lightning Out. Now this is something that's not really covered really well in the release notes. It's sort of a new feature that's part of a developer preview, but it's actually in the product in something called Lightning Components for Visualforce. And you'll see here on this slide, we're showing Lightning components running in various containers. And I'm not trying to not get too deep technical here, but the idea here is that you can use the same component in various places. So you can use them in Lightning Experience, you can use them in Salesforce 1, you can now use them in Salesforce Classic via Visualforce, and you can also use them off-platform in things like Heroku, Microsoft, SAP, you name it. There really is no limitations to where you can use these. Now, this is sort of a technical piece right now. It requires a developer to get involved to write some JavaScript, but it's about 3 lines of JavaScript in most cases. It's not a real hardcore thing. This is not the type of thing where you have to involve weeks and weeks of work. Most of our partners are up and running with this in about 10 minutes. So it's very simple. We have tutorials to show you how to do this in SharePoint and in Heroku and others on the way. And if you look on our success community and our partner community, you'll find Lightning Out groups there. So you can join those and learn all about it. Also, we talk about different sorts of technologies, different toolkits, platforms, frameworks, libraries. So Lightning itself is a platform. We provide for the UI, we provide for the runtime, for the customization via metadata. We sit on top of Force.com. And Lightning components themselves are not just simply taking a third-party library, putting it into a static resource, and serving it into a page. Sometimes people make that mistake because that's the way we did things in Visualforce. We allowed you to use all these third parties there, but you were using them in sort of an external fashion. You would integrate via REST APIs, via Visualforce remoting, via remote objects, and that sort of thing. But you really weren't running on the platform in the same way that Lightning is. So Lightning was designed by the same teams that brought you Force.com, the same teams that brought you Visualforce, and is designed to be fully integrated into the stack. So when you start using it, you get things like versioning, you get direct connectivity, you get lots of optimizations that you don't get when you're running things in your own standalone applications. Now, importantly with that, though, is that Lightning is designed to run with other frameworks. You can actually bring some of those frameworks into Lightning and use them, but importantly now with Lightning Out, you can use the Lightning components in external applications. For example, you see here jQuery, you see SAP, ASP.NET, AngularJS, the whole litany of different frameworks out there. And Lightning Out really doesn't care where it runs. It'll run with almost anything in a modern browser and with modern JavaScript support. And we'll show you some examples of that in just a moment. So this has a lot of details about what is required for Lightning Out. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but it does require some setup. It requires some considerations around security. If you're using it off-platform, you're setting up basically a CORS connection, and that's cross-origin resource sharing. To really understand what that means, it means that you trust a third-party application. It means that that site's trusted. You're going to run your Salesforce components along with something else remotely, and you've decided as an administrator that you want to make that sort of trust level. So it's a whitelist. You have to enable that specifically. It will not run without that. Now, if you're running Lightning components for Visualforce, you do not need to use CORS. You don't need to set that up. So it's much easier because you're running in the same domain. You're running inside of Salesforce. It's already a known, trusted source. Currently, you have to use HTTPS. Now, we think that's a good case all the time anyway. We might relax that in the future to allow HTTP in certain cases, but again, that's a current restriction around using it. Again, when you get into Visualforce, you can relax all of these because you're not going to be doing the same sorts of setup. And then you have to have a connected application, much like you do with using REST APIs and Canvas and other things you're probably familiar with. You set this up to do your authorization. So you can have someone log into Salesforce, get back a session ID, and then start communicating with it. So you are going to be using a standard Force.com user. It requires a Force.com license. You're not circumventing that in any way. And even though we say you're running off-platform, you're still using Force.com. You're still connected to Force.com. The component is still technically connected to it and running there. It just happens that the parent is no longer a Salesforce app. It's no longer Salesforce Classic, Lightning Experience, or Salesforce One. So you're mixing these. And I hate to use the term mashup, but that's really what this is. This is the right way to do mashups. This is what people tried 7 or 8 years ago with iframes and that sort of thing, done correctly. Okay? So let's talk about Lightning components for Visualforce. Now, I was a product manager when we announced Lightning last year, as was Eric, and we got up on stage and we talked about these great new features for the Lightning platform. Everybody got real excited. 30 seconds after we announced it, people said, hey, what about Visualforce? Because we did not really have a great story for it. And we actually had an earlier technology that allowed us to embed Lightning components in Visualforce. And if you've used things like analytics charts inside of Visualforce, you've been using Lightning for a long time now. In fact, various parts of the standard Salesforce Classic UI are in fact Lightning component based. But we didn't make that available as a platform technology. You couldn't take that and do it yourself. But we had a lot of people say, hey, I need to move into Lightning Experience. I want to move to Salesforce One, but I've got a lot of investment in Visualforce, a lot of people using it, and I need to be able to run those new things that I build in Salesforce Classic. How do I do that? So via the Lightning Out technology, you can now embed a Lightning component into any Visualforce page and importantly, interact with it. And we had this question earlier, can you send events to Lightning components? One of the cool things is you can actually take the Lightning events, fire those from a Visualforce page and cause the Lightning component to react in some way. And importantly, you can also register for events coming from components and take action on the Visualforce side. So it's direct interaction in 2 ways, very nicely integrated. And the components run natively inside of Visualforce. This is not via an iframe. It's not going to have all kinds of strange issues around that. So it is a direct integration. Now that being said, this doesn't mean that every component you see in Lightning Experience is immediately available for Visualforce. In fact, we make things available selectively. We do this very carefully because once Salesforce commits to it, we commit to it for decades, as you well know with other technologies. We're an enterprise company. When you download something from AppExchange, it may or may not be available inside of Visualforce. It depends on what the author intended. Some have written it very well to run inside of App Builder, run inside of Salesforce One, run inside Lightning Experience. Some are much more general purpose. So you have to keep in mind that it's not just a all or nothing type thing. It's selective there. That being said, once you start using components inside of Visualforce, you'll find it's very easy to put them in there, test them, run them. And I'm going to show you here some things that are running directly from AppExchange we installed in the demo here. I'm also going to show you a little bit about Lightning Inspector. We may not get into a big demo for this because this gets very, very technical very quickly, but this is a very interesting diagnostic tool that's available to you now to go and look into the Lightning components-based applications, Lightning Experience, Salesforce One, your custom apps and so forth, and get a detailed look at what's happening. Now, Many of you who are admins may not go at this level, but you probably work with developers who do. They use things like the Chrome Dev Tools, and they inspect it, and they look at things like the HTML, the JavaScript, the network traffic, and that sort of thing. This brings it up one level and ties it directly to the components that are being used and to the actions being called. Actions typically being things like Apex calls that you're making on the server side. So the cool thing here is that you now have a great visibility as to what's happening on your page. And if a page is slow or misbehaving, you don't have to guess by looking at HTML and say, well, I think that was generated by this thing. You know exactly where that's coming from. And you can look at the network traffic and know what's being called there. So if you get something that's very chatty, your user's saying, hey, why is this thing slow? You can say, oh, it's that component right there. The thing we just installed from AppExchange, you can now contact the vendor and say, hey, this thing's causing problems on our page. Can you fix this? Or can we patch it? What can we do to rectify that? And importantly, you can know what to remove if you need to make your app work correctly again. So with that, let me show you a couple of demos. I'm going to switch over here to my machine. And what I'd like to show you here is a Visualforce page running standard Visualforce markup in the left. You see here this little selector here, the pick list. The list is generated by Visualforce. But on the right-hand side, we have two components. At the top, we have the Opportunity Health Check, the same one that Eric has shown you, the one that we've talked about here inside of AppExchange when Heather showed you her piece. And this is running inside the Visualforce page now. And below here is a record view. Now this is a force record view. So this is a standard Salesforce component. It ships out of the box, so to speak. And it's the same thing we use inside of Lightning Experience and Salesforce 1. In fact, you saw in both Eric's demo and in Heather's demo, when you have that standard record view inside of any standard page, what we call record home sometimes, that's the thing that's driving it. So we're using the exact same component technology in all the places now. Now, importantly, I still have the ability to style this with my own styling if I'd like to. I can change the styling, I can modify it, and I can make it interact with the Visualforce page. So in this case, we'll pick a different record here by clicking, go down and find a different one down below, and you'll see it update each time I click there. And you can see this do a little bit of flash here as they update the icon, and then the values update inside here. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of code here. I just want to show you how easy it is to use this. This is standard Visualforce boilerplate code. In fact, I took this directly from our docs, and this builds up this opportunity screen. So this is the type of thing that almost anybody who's done Visualforce has probably built. I added one include here. In fact, it's the lightningout.js. And then a bit further down, whenever we select something in Visualforce, we're going to call this select ID, and that's going to fire an event that says, fire an event with the record ID inside it, and something in Lightning is going to listen for that. And importantly, when the page was created, I used this code here to create two components, my record view and the My Opportunity Health Check. So I've wrapped My Opportunity Health Check, I've made it listen for that event, and I've wrapped the record view and it says listen for that event as well. So I've done a little bit of work on the Lightning side, the programmatic side, and make it work very nicely inside of Visualforce. Now to take this up a level, let's go over here to SharePoint. We'll talk about Lightning out in general. So the same technology that makes it easy to use these inside of Visualforce allows us to run things in other containers. And by containers, we mean pretty much anything that runs in the web. We've got examples that show it in SAP, PHP, running with Node.js. You name it, we can probably make Lightning out work with it. It's designed to be very open, very modern, and importantly, very fast and lightweight. And the speed you'll get will be the same speed you would get running inside of Lightning Experience in Salesforce 1. So now that since we're outside of Salesforce here, we're going to actually log into SharePoint directly, and we're going to log into Salesforce using a standard Salesforce OAuth UI. So I'm going to say allow this. Once this goes back, it's going to actually give me two buttons, create a chatter feed and create opportunities. And create opportunities is just going to add in my opportunities view like so. And you see here I've got the TAS group down below as well, although I lost my icons. I've got to fix that in my code. And I also can create a chatter feed like so. And this chatter feed is coming directly from my user. You can see here my test posts and that sort of thing. And not really a business-focused thing, but just kind of testing things out. And importantly, this is the same exact code we used in Visualforce, the same 3 lines of code. We made it very simple, very easy. All of the things around authorization, sessions, and that sort of thing actually come externally, and it's the same sorts of things people have done with Salesforce for years now. We haven't changed anything there. We're built directly into force.com. We're using the exact same platform you've been using for a while. This is just a new way to take those components and make them easily available outside. So with that, I'll go back to the slides, and I'll show you a bit of a roadmap. So our plan in the future is to go GA with this. Now, per Safe Harbor, we can't commit to a particular date. We are working on this hopefully for spring 16, but again, Safe Harbor, we can't commit to that at this point. We also have some better debugging and some better tooling coming along. We've got some great partners working on tools. We've got some of our own initiatives coming along, including some things that relate to App Builder. Imagine taking App Builder and taking that maybe down a level, if you will, and letting you do things like building components directly with drag and drop. We're kind of aiming towards that in future releases. We're also looking at lots of additional components. Again, as I mentioned, Salesforce has lots of components. You can see these in Lightning Experience and in Salesforce 1, and you probably say, hey, I'd like to have that. We'd like for you to have them too, but again, we have to make a commitment to get those to you, and there's a lot of work internally now to make those available to you in a form that you can take and use them inside of App Builder, as well as use them in a programmatic fashion. So we'll make them available, and importantly, in a way that we can support them for years to come. And when we have new features come out, you can take advantage of those as well. So they can be forward compatible, you can upgrade to this, and you're not left behind with a version of the component that is very old and outdated. And then finally, a couple more customization things around Lightning extensions. This is a technology that allows you to selectively replace things inside a page you don't own. So it's a complementary to App Builder, complementary to the way we do build pages today, but it will allow you to say, replace that component on this page using these criteria with my custom component. And we're hoping to get that to you sometime in subsequent releases. So with that, I'd like to hand this back over and talk about the larger set of things we have coming from the App Cloud. And I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Excellent. And just to make sure that we have everything covered, I believe we've been talking a lot about the developer editions and developer previews here. And I think we actually have some more resources to share with our customers as they get prepared to take advantage of those things. Elna, what do we have for them?
That's right. The event, formerly known as the Developer Preview, is the Winter 16 Release Overview and Highlights, which is designed for admins and developers. It's run by Developer Force, and it is coming up on October 13th. I will be tweeting out a registration link, so look for that in the Salesforce Live hashtag feed. And that's where you can learn more about new App Cloud features. Admins will learn some best practices for rolling out Lightning and some little gems that will help make your lives easier. And developers will hear about the new CRUD functionality for external objects, the new Apex debugger, very exciting, and Lightning components for the desktop, Salesforce 1, as well as Lightning Experience. So all of those will be covered in that webinar, so definitely register even if you can't attend, because you always get that link to watch the video if you're not able to attend live. Now, we have a few questions, so if you'd like me to launch into that, or if you have any conclusions.
Oh, no, I think the customers would really benefit from hearing from Q&A on Skip.
All right, excellent. So definitely a lot of excitement about the extensibility of Lightning Out and the flexibility of using components everywhere. There's definitely a lot of people looking forward to that. But some people are wondering, do you have to use Lightning components? And for example, do you have to enable it in your org if you decide you're not quite ready for it?
So you don't really enable Lightning components anymore. That was part of an earlier beta where you had to go in and actually select it. It's enabled by default in all orgs now. And Lightning components are the direct way for you to customize Lightning Experience in Salesforce 1. That being said, you can continue using Visualforce. They're supported in all the various places as well. Salesforce is an enterprise company. We're committed to it. So you don't have to make the move to Lightning components. I would encourage you to, because that's where you're going to find all the momentum with things like App Builder, with things like the Lightning Exchange. That's where a lot of the activity is going to be and a lot of tooling. But you don't have to make that move.
All right. Now, what about Lightning Out and AngularJS hosted apps? Do they play together well, and how do they work together? And do you have any examples, or do we have any information we can share after the broadcast about that?
Sure, they actually play together very nicely. And with Lightning Out, you would actually run the AngularJS application on, say, Heroku. Maybe you've got Node.js as a server, maybe you've got a Java server, and you're going to actually embed the Lightning component inside of the AngularJS application. So Angular is going to act as the outer shell. It draws all the page and act as the router, if you want to think of that sort of terminology. And the Lightning components are embedded inside it. We can also reverse things where we actually put AngularJS inside a Lightning component and run it therefore inside of Salesforce 1, inside a Lightning experience, and now you can run those inside of Visualforce if you wanted to. And in that case, Angular is inside the component, not on the outside. So you can do it both ways. Depending on which way you're going, you may have to take some time to learn how to spin up both of the technologies. There's some considerations around life cycles and things like that. That being said, a lot of what you just saw with the TAS group is built with AngularJS. So there's an example of it running today inside of Lightning components. So we have examples of that today actually on AppExchange. It's a very popular technology, and we fully support the integration of the two. But just to qualify this, it doesn't mean you need to know Angular to build Lightning components. We sometimes get people confused by that, and that's not the case either.
That's right. Now, there are quite a few people you resonated with Michael about the cliff. He said he's been talking about the cliff between page layouts and Visualforce for years, and now Lightning is going to change all of that. So, thank you for sharing that. And couple of general questions that relate to other sections as well. Kirill is asking, when would the Lightning page layout editor be GA?
So we talked about that the Lightning app builder there for editing record home pages. We're hard at work on it. I'd say with safe harbor considerations obviously applying, our goal is to make that available in the spring release.
Excellent. And Cheryl was looking at the Lightning Exchange, and there's a button on there that says upgradable. Mm-hmm. She wants to know a little bit about what that means.
Sure, it's a great question. So upgradable means that if you're familiar with Salesforce technology, it means it's a managed package. And so this means that you get a package of code in your org that the partner who built that component, or this is true of apps as well, the partner who built that can actually push upgrades to your org, or you can opt into getting upgrades for that code in the package. So basically, it's all contained, and you can get upgrades that will not break anything else that you may have built around that component or app.
Great. Now, are there third-party tools that are available and supported for Lightning components?
Yes, in fact, one of the ones that we found very exciting at Dreamforce was something called the Cloud 9 IDE. And this is a web-based IDE, so it runs in your browser. It actually connects to your Salesforce org, and then we'll pull down all the metadata about your org, so all of your components and various other pieces. And you can start building and deploying directly there. And that's a very interesting tool. It does things like code completion, does attribute completion, so it's very nice. There's a lot of momentum around that. That being said, we also have partners who build extensions for IntelliJ as well as for Eclipse. So there's lots of interesting third parties there. And then to kind of go off into a different area, we have partners such as Squid that have their own ecosystem around things as well. So it actually plays very nicely. And look for some interesting tools coming from TerraSky and others that will actually generate components for use inside of App Builder. Very exciting tool there. They're even promising to take some of your Visualforce code and let you help manage that, getting that into a Lightning-based component.
That's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah.
Now, of course, everyone is going to be diving deep into all these features, and what always happens is you run into a limitation. You run into something, I can't do that, and that's the last piece that I need. So what's the best way to communicate or find out about what's coming in terms of enhancements and those things that people are holding out for?
Well,
the best way to tell us about ideas, I have to say, take this one because of the success community, is the Idea Exchange,
Absolutely.
Of course. If you're not familiar with the Idea Exchange, go check it out. You can always tell us about any ideas that you have for our product. So if you hit any sort of limitation, please get out there and let us know. You can vote on the ideas and really help tell us what's most important to you. So that's definitely the best way to give us feedback. I think as far as future-facing things that are coming, look out for things like this. We're always sharing our roadmaps. Some of the other previews that you're going to get to see, they'll share some roadmap information as well. And then we're hard at work at putting something together that hopefully we can let you know, especially when you talk about the new Lightning experience, provide you a little more information about what's coming next for that as well.
And I think building on what you were saying about the success community, certainly if you have ongoing questions about App Builder, whether it's for mobile or for Lightning experience, We have an official group on the Success community. Look for the Lightning App Builder group there, and that's a great way to ask your questions. Myself and my team actively monitor that group, and we make sure that any of your questions get answered in a timely fashion.
That's right. The people that you see on camera right now are the ones that answer those roadmap questions. And also an interesting feature of the Ideas Exchange is that you can find out if a feature is coming in the next release, or it's coming or it's under consideration. There are some statuses that you can check, and I believe there is a vote threshold. So if an idea has a threshold of a certain number of votes, then it will be looked at by product management. So
absolutely.
So that's another way to kind of track what's coming when. So for the benefit of all, says Paul, you can put AngularJS app inside of a Lightning component or host on Heroku and then use Lightning out. Can we clarify that?
So to clarify, you can put a AngularJS-based app inside a Lightning component and run that inside of Salesforce 1, Lightning Experience, and so forth. And in that case, you're actually going to be loading the AngularJS libraries from a static resource hosted inside of Salesforce. That has nothing to do with Lightning Out. So in the Lightning Out case, you're actually going to run an Angular application on Heroku or some other platform, in which case your web page is generated by AngularJS. So that's the container in this case. And you're using Lightning Out there to embed the component in the Angular-based application. So it's sort of two ways to do integration. Once they're running, both are very similar, but one is the controller, one is the outer, in one case, one is running inside it. So it's a containment level. But the way you communicate between the Lightning component and Angular becomes the same. Lightning has a very, very strong component technology. It allows for attributes to be set and events to be fired or processed. There really is no other direct way to manipulate it. It's not a low-level JavaScript API for DOM manipulation and things like that. So it's very formalized. We enforce that. And that makes it very easy for you to communicate with these third parties. We say, here's the way to work with these components. And that allows us to say, all these components on AppExchange can now play together nicely inside of these custom applications.
Now I've got a question for Heather.
All right.
So let's say you're just looking to get started with components. You don't really know where to start. You want to maybe start with something simple that kind of gives you a big bang for your buck. Are there certain components that you would recommend, let's say, are the most popular, maybe free, low investment, to just kind of get your feet wet and just sort of experiment, that are either available now or coming soon?
Sure, that's a great question. I think that as far as what's most popular, you can actually see that on the AppExchange. There are filters for popularity, so you can, whenever you're viewing a list on the AppExchange, you can say, show me this by popularity, so you can see that there. As far as things to get started with, I think there's a lot out there around opportunities and visualization of data on the opportunity. So something like that TAS health check that we showed, that's one that is definitely very popular. You can use it in Salesforce 1 or on the new Lightning Experience pages that Eric was showing earlier. And then there's a lot of other ones. There's different heat maps, and data visualization is a big thing around components. So that's a category that I would encourage everybody to explore if you're trying to figure out how do I get started with components.
All right, thank you. Can I make a few plugs before we?
The floor is yours, Elma.
All right. So again, definitely register for the release overview on Developer Force, and I'm going to be tweeting out the registration link to that shortly. And I'll also be tweeting a link to the App Builder group in the Success community, which Eric will be hanging out in and answer, especially if you have some really deep dive questions about using the App Builder. You're really getting down in there and experimenting, and you've got some technical developer questions. That is definitely the place to get those going. So definitely check that out, in addition to the Release Readiness group, which is actually there all year round for you. So if you're preparing for this release, or after this release is out, you're going to want to start figuring out how you're going to get ready for releases in general. What's your process going to be? We have some events around that. And we also have feature-focused webinars that go on every month. We do one every week, in fact. And those are ongoing. So definitely join us in Release Readiness and continue to talk with us there all year round. And we're there for questions and lots of content for you. So Thank you for that, Mike. But I think we pretty much got to the end of the questions, so I think we may be able to give some people some time back in their day.
That sounds like a great idea. I think that'd be very generous of us. So folks, that wraps up about everything that we had to cover for today's App Cloud discussion. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Elna, and thank you to our product management team. As a reminder, if you're looking for any of our release readiness related content, you can find that at www.salesforce.com/release readiness, and you can find them in both long form and short form clips for your consumption there. And we hope that you enjoyed the show today. If you have any suggestions about how we might be able to improve this experience for you as the viewer, please use the survey that will be populating underneath the screen that you're using to view this right now. And just as an added note, for 25 people who complete or I should say for everybody who completes the survey, you will be entered into a drawing from which we will select 25 winners to receive a Salesforce hoodie. So if you help us out a little bit, we will do the same for you. But more on that later. For all of Salesforce, this has been Mike Torres wishing you the best in success.